Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session at the SUSECON 2023. We're here today to talk about how SLES BCI plays a vital role ensuring the security of the National Post Office in Brazil. And we're here with Vinicius Neuhaus too. So now we're going to present ourselves so you can know what we do here at SUSE and how we're going to bring you this content for this time. So, Vinicius, if you want to present yourself first, please.
Hello, everybody. My name is Vinicius Neuhaus. I am one of the sales engineers responsible for this customer. Here in this slide, you have my email, and you can contact me for further questions.
And I'm João Lucas Vale. I'm a sales engineer, and I work here in Brazil with customers such as Correios for this case study. And you can contact me through this email or phone number. And this is where we're going to start our presentation. So first off, we'd like to introduce the Correios team, which is the company which we're doing this case study. We would like to give a huge thanks to Adriano Bandeira, which is the corporate manager. He's responsible for the IT of Correios, and he's the one that gave us the information for this presentation. And it's the main person that we have contact to share information, talk about SOSE, and present new solutions to them.
And it's a
Um,
pleasure to be representing so important institution like Correios in Suzicon.
Yes, for sure. And we'd like to give a thanks for all the other people that are here on the slide. Ricardo, Thiago, Lorshaider, Alexandre. You play a vital role sustaining this environment for Correios, which is a really important company for Brazil. So this is our agenda. We'll start off talking about Correios, which is one of the oldest companies in Latin America. Next, we're going to talk about how Correios are ready for the new world, how they started doing the modernization of their infrastructure and using containers. We're going to talk about the present and how they do their work now, how they implement SLAS BCI and how SLAS BCI helps to bring more security and stability for them. And we would like to talk about the future too. So we have on the last topic how what are the tangible and intangible benefits of implementing SLAS VCI and what we can expect for the future. Okay, so who is Correios, right? Correios was created in Brazil on January 25th, 1663. It's one of the largest public companies in Brazil. They are responsible for providing postal services around all Brazil. They are the biggest postal service in Brazil right now, both comparing to public and private institutions. And they played a vital role in Brazil during the COVID-19 pandemic because they were responsible for transportation and distribution of personal protective equipment, medical supplies, medications, tests, and even vaccines. So, Vinicius, can you talk a little more about Correios and what they do in Brazil?
Of course. Uh, we are talking about Empresa Brasileira de Correios e Telégrafos, EBCT. They are a company founded in 1969. They are one of the largest companies in Brazil, and they play a crucial role connecting people, business, and institutions by delivering mail and packages and more. They are also responsible for post office and distribution centers for all countries. So we are talking about Brazil, and is a continental country. So they have a real huge challenge to deal with this environment, and we are talking about logistics and also financial solutions delivery by Empresa Brasileira de Correios e Telégrafos.
Yeah. And the infrastructure
Yeah,
now?
and about infrastructure, this is an important thing. We are talking about, and we are talking about a scenario involving technology, right? So Correios has their infrastructure is spread in three major cities in Brazil, and we are talking about Brasilia, who is the capital of Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, and São Paulo. In these three cities, they have three production clusters. We are not talking about homologation and development environment here. We are talking just for production, and they have 120 nodes. So it's a huge environment composed by Kubernetes and 414 namespaces. And this is an important thing because every one of these namespaces represent our application. Okay, and we are talking about 4,000 pods. And this presentation is focused to talk about containers and images. So this 5,000 pods is extremely relevant for this presentation because when we are talking about an environment composed by 5,000 pods, this is huge. Imagine one pod can contain more than one container. Okay, so this is all their infrastructure, right? Okay, João.
Cool. All right. So now we're gonna discuss a little bit on how Correios are ready for a new world. All right. So Vinicius gave us a good example, a good image of how big is the scenario of Correios right now. And I'd like to present to you a little, just a small timeline showing how their modernization route happened. So this is how they came from a traditional app development to a DevOps lifecycle that they have implemented on Correios right now. So the first container deployment happened on 2017, right? So they were using Docker by the time. By the time Docker was like a huge piece of software being implemented on every organization. Maybe it was not so mature, but everybody was talking about, right? So they have some applications that were running on container using Docker, and some that most of it were running on traditional infrastructure. And when we go to 2019 through 2021, during the pandemic, they start to implement their Kubernetes clusters. Okay, so that's when they first implemented the first production Kubernetes cluster, and then they started to implement their modernization of their apps. So they started taking the traditional infra and the containers that were running on Docker standalone and putting them on the Kubernetes lifecycle.
And João, we are not talking just about he hosting VMs to containers, right? We are
Yeah.
talking about our whole modernization of this application. So we are talking about rewriting the applications to explore all the potential for Kubernetes, right?
Yes, that's right. This is very important because we are not like, as you said, it's not so simple. We are changing the whole, culture in the company. We are not like developing applications as we did before. We're doing something that many of you probably heard, which is called microservices, and this is a huge goal for them. Right? And they start to implement this technology using Debian images with monitoring and multi-cluster technologies. So they had many Kubernetes clusters and they could choose where the applications would be deployed. So step forward, when we go to 2022 to 2023, they started to implement their Rancher Prime. All right. So the first step with us, with our partnership, was the implementation of Rancher Prime with Longhorn and SUSE Linux as the underlying operational system, just for out of curiosity. And after that, they started to implement the Neo Vector. And this is something interesting because when they got everything on the infrastructure side implemented and ready to go, they started to pop up concerns about security. So that's why they implemented NeoVector. And by implementing NeoVector, they could see that there were some points that could be better, in the inside the container images. So that's when they started to understand the importance of SLE BCI, and they could start to visualize the benefits of using enterprise community an enterprise solution for containers and not a community one. All right.
And the
So
last topic, João, was
yeah.
the PCI rollout, right?
Yeah.
So based on this, all this experience with new vector and comparisons between what they are using of as images, they started to do the rollout of /BCI images.
Yes, yes, that's true. And this rollout for Slash BCI was mainly pushed because of security problems. And one of those problems we would like to discuss then, because I think they're relevant for any scenario, is that when you are relying on community software, you have limited features. So you might need some additional configuration or some installation steps to implement your service, to implement your application. This might take some time, this might take some work hours and many people to do. So it's important to start considering enterprise container
Solution.
solution, yes, or image, because when you rely on community, you can take longer to implement your software on containers on a DevOps culture. Security updates are extremely relevant because secret updates can take some time to get to your hands when you're using community software. When you have a company together with you, the company is gonna provide you with security patches and in a timing and frequency that might align to your requirements, your security requirements in production. So it's very important to have a company having and sharing information to provide you with security, and you do not need to like wait for the community to provide you with a fix for unplanned security event or some vulnerability. uh, there are some dependencies that can cause you some potential insecurity. This happens because sometimes you rely on third party software, uh, and you're not sure about the dependencies. Maybe the code might be something that is coming from what we will talk about. It's called supply chain attacks, and this is important. And the last one is the authenticity of the image. You cannot like verify all the time, the authenticity of the images when you're using community software. And when you have a company associate providing with the images, you can be sure that all the images are verified and they are authentically what you're expecting.
And some important thing here, João, is
Yeah.
about feature. We are not talking about just about additional tools to be enabled for this particular environment, right? We are talking
Yeah.
about a thing who interested Correios was the roadmap. So when we are the problem with community images is the roadmap. You don't have a clear vision of the roadmap, and all the changes will be happen during all this time. So uh, these limited features uh, is expressed by a roadmap, right?
Yes, that's a great point, by the way. So I mentioned back then about supply chain attacks, and right now, when we're talking about microservices, when we're talking about DevOps, supply chain is the core because it's crucial to ensure security and reliability of the images you're using. So, supply chain, for those that do not know, supply chain talks about the whole process, the whole steps you do, to gather software, to gather dependencies, to get libraries, to run your service. So, a supply chain, when you're using community, might depend on Docker Hub or maybe GitHub, right? So this is interesting because you can get access very easily to useful tools and to useful software, but it's hard to manage the vulnerabilities, to verify the code provenance, and to comply with some legal requirements when you rely 100% on community. What we want to do here with our solutions is to ensure business continuity and to contribute to a safer and more reliable software ecosystem. This is a simple schematic of how Correios is using a vector to check for vulnerabilities in their pipeline, also in their CI pipeline and on their image registry, but also in their production runtime. All right. So with null vector, they can have an idea of where are the vulnerabilities and which they can fix. All right. And this is where we came in part with slash BCI, because we give them, not only the underlying container base, all right, with the patches and all that, but we gave them the patches to fixes everything that happens in the future, so they can be sure that if some vulnerability appears during, I don't know, maybe a year or two, they will be sure that SUSE will provide them with a patch, with a fix, so they can keep on complying with security requirements.
Yes.
Or, all right. So Vinicius, can you give a panorama of now and the future for Correios?
Yeah, of course. This is important. We explain about what is the environment of the Correios and how they do the daily work. Okay, using images of containers and using other solutions like João said, like new vector to explore and see the number of the vulnerabilities. But we are talking about slash BCI, right? And but what exactly is slash BCI and what is the advantages for Correios when they are looking for slash BCI? So the first one is slash BCI stands for slash SUSE Linux based container image. So basically, slash BCI is a container image based on SUSE Linux. Okay, and the idea behind slash BCI is provide enterprise level features and security and support, okay, to guarantee stability to a critical infrastructure. An important topic here is long-term support, okay. When they started to use container images based on community, they didn't have um, uh, they have problems with the long-term support. Okay, when we're starting to use slash BCI, we have extended time of support and maintenance provided by SUSE. So this environment is a critical environment. Okay, we are talking about delivering packages for all, in all country, so they have to support this for a long time. And when they started to use less BCI, they see the value behind the time of the support, the extended support of this image, and how the time that they will be using for the teams. The second topic here, and this is very important, is security and compliance. Okay, so when they started to use container images based on Slash, they, they have now a, a, a direct contact with SUSE to provide security patches and updates, and they have this regularly. So it's pretty different from the community images they are used to use. Okay, and when they start to deliver this and started to create this, they started to create a compliance around this, because we have now developers using a source of image, um, who is completely secure and is provided by SUSE. So it's not just the image of they are using, is where they are consuming these images. So the image provided by SUSE is provided by a security registry. So this is good, because this is implies in all supply chain what they are providing. So this is pretty important. In and slash BCI images are very scalable images and offer a huge performance compared to some community images provided by them.
Cool. And we could make like a comparison, right, Vinicius, with their previous, base image and their current one with Slash,
Yeah,
right?
definitely. This was tough because uh, Correios had some requisites to start to move to a different container image. Okay, so the three main requisites was size, compatibility, and security. Okay, so when they start to use SUSE containers, they see. they saw the stable life cycle and the long life cycle. And the second thing what they looked was the size. Okay, we are talking about 5,000 containers. So if we have 1 megabyte more, we are talking about 1 gigabyte, more than almost 4 gigabytes, uh, reflecting in size of the storage. Okay, but when they started to move for slash BCI, they saw a reduction of the size of the image. So slash BCI images, the minimal images, provide an image for 46 megabytes, compared for Debian, who is the mainly image used by them. The version stable slim provided by Debian have 80 megabytes. So is a pretty different number of megabytes comparing this comparison. Okay, the other thing is compatibility. So compatibility is reflecting by supported integrated integration, enterprise integrations. Okay, so they are not using only community solutions in Correios. They are using other enterprise solutions. So we are talking Microsoft, we are talking Oracle, and other major companies. So they need to have supported integrations, and we have this provided by slash BCI images. Okay, and we can have this contact between companies when they are using community images. They are not aware about this, and they don't know how to contact and how to solve these problems, because they have this lack of continuity involving community. Okay, in slash PCI images, we have a streamlined number of apps and focus apps on enterprise solutions. Okay, and when we are talking about community images, we have a wide range of apps. So we have some things focused on enterprise, but we also have something focused on daily use and focus in domestic users. So this is important because when we are looking for the streamlined number of apps of SUSE, we are focused on only in enterprise solutions. So this is a big change for them. Okay, and when we see what SUSE is offering to us at the point of view of the containing images, we have a variety of containing images. So we have this minimal image, but we also can have language containing images like for Ruby or other languages. So this is good because we can separate this and deliver this for developers, and they have only what they need. Okay, and when you are talking about the number of the vulnerabilities, SUSE can deliver an address a large number of security patches provided by SUSE, and the customer could contact us directly to solve some problems. So this is pretty different for to work with community solutions.
Cool. Yeah. And more than like gaining some benefits from size, compatibility, security, as you said, they have some tangible and intangible benefits from implementing slash BCI, right, Vinicius?
Yes.
And what we want to show you now is some considerations on how Correios packages their services using Slab BCI. So this is their tangible benefit of implementing their software, implementing their services using Slab BCI. First off, as Vinicius said, they have light container images right now. This is great by many aspects. One of them is storage to keep all those images stored. But both the usage of RAM of the memory on the side of the nodes which are processing and running the applications, right? The custom images are based on Slide PCI, So they take the base that we provide them, and they make their customizations. They make their changes, both on libs, on drivers, so they can run their application with ease. All right. So one of the main benefits here is that they can make their custom images and they can still be supported by SUSE, and they are secure and patched. All right. So this is one of the main concerns. They were observing too many vulnerabilities on the past distributions that they were using as Debian. So now they can see that their applications are running on a base image that is much more secure, and they can be sure that SUSE is providing with patches for those images. So on the image here, we can see that they can code and implement their software using many languages, as C or Python or PHP, and then they can take all the libs and drivers, plus configurations that SUSE provides them in SLE BCI, and of course of services. So they can build all that into one container, right? And this is where they have the output of their apps, all right, their services based on SLE BCI. So this is mainly what they have of tangible benefit right now implemented in SLE BCI. But they do have some intangible benefits. We like to take like four here that we believe are the most important. The first is the simplification, right? So it's much more easy to manage those containers, because you do not rely on communities to implement the software. They have what they need to implement right now. All right. So another point is that they have some integrations that have been accelerated much more, because of the fast provisioning of the container, because it's lighter, but both because they have all their libs, all their dependencies, all their configurations to run their applications, and they can be sure that whatever they run their application, it's gonna work both on premises, both on multi-cloud or hybrid infrastructures if they ever move their applications to cloud, for instance. Um, and they do have some open source options, right, to implement their software. This is good because it reduces the hiring and the effort to maintain the software, all right, to monitor the software and to make changes and updates, right, and new features will be
And
added in the future.
and
So
João, about open source
something.
options, one interesting thing is
Yeah.
um, community images could be uh, uh, could be continued used by Correios, right? So they
Yeah.
are they when they start to use less BCI, is not they are only changing everything for less BCI, but they are seeing another option in the view, right? Because
Yes.
they can continue to use Debian, they continue to use other solutions, but they are already they also have this less BCI now to compose their open source options to them, right? So, but only focus on the enterprise solutions, right? So this is important thing about not the value delivered by another to change the environment, but to compose what they are using, right?
Yes, that's right. Now they can choose which path they will go with a certain application. Not all applications need enterprise distribution, right? A base container. So when they're coding, when they're developing their new application, they can choose if they're going a community way or they go with us
Yes.
during the enterprise way, right? That's good. And of course, new features to be added as they keep going with us. Suzy will be adding new features into our services, mainly into SLAT BCI in this case. So they are very well updated and very well know about our roadmap of our solution. So this is good because it helps them. It helps them, of course, but it helps us to know what we should offer to our customer, right?
Yeah,
Well,
and Isles BCI has his roadmap, right? And
yeah.
has their own features and all support and services dedicated for SLE BCI. So this is interesting in terms of features to be added in the future and the way of SLE BCI will be delivered in the future.
Yes, this is good. This is good because they can be sure that SUSE will help them whenever direction their application takes, right?
Yeah.
The future. Right. So this is what we had for today. Thank you so much for your attention. Uh, we hope to see you in Munich for those that we're gonna be there. But thank you so much. And do you have some final considerations, Vinicius?
No, thank you guys. Bye.
Bye bye.